Well, welcome back to another travel news video. I'm your host, Robert Witham. I scour the news for stories of interest to travelers and those who love the great outdoors so you don't have to. Each travel news episode, I try to keep you apprised of what's going on out there. If you know of a story that might be of interest, please send it to me at robert.witham@gmail.com. Thanks to everyone who's already shared tips and links. If you're interested in videos featuring scenery from some of the best places in the U.S., please check out my other YouTube channel, Meanderings. Link to that's in the video description below. Well, this is a wildlife episode. I have 3 wildlife stories for you. I'd love to say lions and tigers and bears, oh my, but I don't have a tiger, but I do have a moose. So lions, moose, and bears. All right, another moose attack in Colorado. This time, a woman was walking along Little Vasquez Road. This is near Winter Park, which we just saw a moose attack with a guy who was trail running there with his dogs. And this was also, Little Vasquez Road is also known as U.S. Forest Service Road 156. This happened on Sunday morning between 4:30 and 5:30 in the dark when the woman was attacked by a cow moose. The woman told authorities that the moose knocked her down twice, and after being knocked down the second time, she decided to play dead. The moose then left the scene, and the woman was able to hike out on her own to seek medical attention for injuries to her back, leg, and wrist. She was walking a good moose habitat without a light in the dark, so we suspect she walked right into the moose, said Colorado Parks and Wildlife Area Wildlife Manager Jeremy Huntington, who we've referenced in another recent story about moose incidents in Colorado. Trails next to water often make for a great hiking experience, but they're also often near great moose habitat. Hikers should choose routes with good visibility and be extra cautious when walking in close proximity to willows and thick habitat. I would add there not just for moose reasons, but also for bears. This is the second moose conflict we've had near Winter Park in less than a week, says CPW District Wildlife Manager Jacob Kay. The incident is a good reminder for folks to give moose plenty of space when recreating outdoors. CPW goes on to note that hikers can help minimize moose conflicts by being wise about where they recreate and practice the leave no trace principle to plan ahead and prepare by looking up trail information and conditions ahead of time. So always saying no before you go, and you just applies to just in general, just knowing what's on out there, what you're likely to run into, what weather conditions are likely to be like, are there any serious weather threats you know about, what's the wildlife status, what kind of animals you're going to run into, that sort of thing. You can do this with a simple internet search. You can also do it by going to the appropriate webpage for a Bureau of Land Management or Forest Service or whatever public land agency is in charge of the public lands where you're going. You can also always just contact a ranger. They're usually pretty friendly and more than glad to help. And so this also brings up kind of a question that comes up sometimes amongst those who love the great outdoors and hiking and camping and things. Is it a good idea to walk around in the dark in the forest without a flashlight? Anytime you're walking around in the dark, you may increase your chances of running into wildlife because a lot of wildlife are nocturnal, or especially in those early morning hours and early evening hours. And, in this case, it's possible this person might have seen the moose, had been equipped with a flashlight or waited till daylight, but by walking in the dark, and I get it's nice and quiet and cool and everything else, but if you don't have a light, in this case, it's according to what the ranger was saying, it's not like she pretty much walked into the moose, didn't see it in the dark. So, and that can happen. They're pretty dark coats, and it would be very easy to get very close to one. And we've talked before about moose, unlike other wildlife that might scatter and get away from you, moose are going to draw their line where they're going to stand their ground oftentimes. And it sounds like that's what happened here. The moose was standing his ground, woman walked right into it, and the moose knocked her down and knocked her down again. And I think the wise thing she did was playing dead, and the moose left at that point because the woman was no longer a threat. So it's up to you, I guess. But I use a light of some sort when I'm walking in the dark, even if I toggle it on and off periodically, just to scan surroundings and make sure there's nothing there that I'm not seeing in the dark. And also in Colorado, we got a bear story. Frequent bear activity at a Colorado campground has led to the area being closed at least through Labor Day. Forest rangers made the decision to close Avalanche Campground in the White River National Forest near Carbondale due to several black bears frequenting the campground and one of the bears destroying a tent. Campers were present when a bear entered the campground and destroyed the tent, but there were no injuries, fortunately. There was reportedly no bear attractant, such as food, to lure the bear into camp. Clearly, this bear understands campsites potentially mean food and is no longer afraid of people, said Aspen Cypress District Ranger Kevin Warner. We have reports of at least one other emboldened bear visiting the campground. Avalanche Campground will remain closed at least through Labor Day while U.S. Forest Service officials coordinate with Colorado Parks and Wildlife. The press release did not detail exactly what they're coordinating about, but it obviously has to do with bear safety in the campgrounds. And a little bit of a different story here. 80-pound mountain lion was removed from a New York City apartment where she'd been kept as a pet last week. And yeah, I'm scratching my head. The person who had been keeping the 11-month-old cat in the apartment surrendered the animal after realizing it was not a good fit for city apartment life. You think? The mountain lion was first brought to the Bronx Zoo for veterinary care and has since been moved to Turpentine Creek Wildlife Refuge in Arkansas. According to Police Commissioner Dermot Shea, the case is currently under investigation and no further information is available at this time. Well, don't forget, travelers, send me links or details or stories you think might be of interest to robert.witham@gmail.com. And if you're interested in travel, photography, and stories, check out Meanderings Magazine, a quarterly travel photography magazine available in print and digital formats. Links below in the video description if you want to learn more, or at meanderingsmagazine.com. Thanks for joining me for this travel news episode.